basically, what is pharmacovigilance? So in terms of like defining pharmacovigilance, so basically it is the drug safety of like any medicinal product. So what we do here is we detect, we collect, we assess and monitor any safety related issues for any drug, so that we can prevent it in any future manufacturing things for any medicinal product. So basically it is more focused on detection, assessment, then analysis, and its prevention. So these are the basic factors that we look into for any PV related activities, and it is very important in terms of patient safety, because during clinical trial we do ensure that we conduct various clinical trial phases. We study it on say healthy volunteers, we study it on the relevant groups. But when the product is launched and when it is in the market, we also need to ensure that we need to consistently monitor the safety of the drug. It is safe and efficacious when it is launched as well. And if at all there are any safety concerns which are observed post marketing, that is the pharmaceutical company's responsibility to take care of those safety concerns, and patient safety would be of utmost importance, so that pharmacovigilance is a very critical activity, I would say. So when we break the term like pharmacovigilance, the pharmacon, basically it's a Greek term for drug, and vigilare means it's in Latin, it is termed to be for to keeping a watch on it. So this is how we define the pharmacovigilance and the activities. So basic of pharmacovigilance, like what is the intention of it and why do we need to have this in place. Then in terms of what all activities are involved into pharmacovigilance, like what do we do? So it starts with right from collection, then documenting it, analyzing it, and reporting it, and preventing it. And this is how the PV domain is split into various work streams. It starts with medical affairs. So what do we do in medical affairs? So we have say required call centers, we have required medical affairs teams, we have say product teams, we have our commercial guys who usually come across or maybe interact with various distributors or maybe doctors or physicians, and they try to collect information, they collect information. So in terms of medical information or medical affairs activity, they deal with each and every type of complaint. It may not be only related to adverse event. So basic medical information inquiry, or maybe a general inquiry, or anything related to product quality, that is also handled through the medical affairs group along with the adverse event. And wherever we have any adverse event reported, so it starts with documentation of it. So first of all, whenever any adverse event is reported, we need to confirm that there are 4 minimum criterias which are fulfilling the validity of any adverse event report. So what do you mean by a validity? So to qualify any adverse event report to under a category of adverse event, rather, we need to have 4 basic criteria, and this is the requirement from various regulations and guidelines. So it is a very basic requirement just to ensure that we have a valid report, or whenever we are reporting it to health authority, so it is having a valid information that is getting documented at their end. And what is minimum criteria that would ensure that we have a valid report? So it requires an identifiable product, it requires an identifiable patient, it needs an identifiable reporter, and it also needs basically the adverse event with whatever is getting reported. So these are the 4 minimum criterias which would be required to qualify any adverse event to be a valid one. And likewise, the activity would start from then. So in terms of adverse event reporting, we collect the adverse event report, we document it into various databases. Like there are various safety databases that are usually available to document any adverse event report. You might have heard of maybe Argus system or RSG. So these are pretty known databases into the industry, and these are well accepted and well validated through various regulatory authorities as well. So basically what we do in ICSR then, ICSR is individual case safety report. So this is an individual ICSR or maybe individual adverse event report, which is getting documented into the safety database, like I said. So the safety database, more or less, it is similar to any kind of basic tool that we might use for filling up any information. We might be filling various forms online to register somewhere on any of the online web portals or maybe the tools, where we would need basic details like first name, last name of the patient, first name, last name, address of the reporter, then details around the suspect drug. Suspect drug means after consuming any product, if we are having any adverse event, so that is our suspect product. Just to give you an example, say for example, I have taken paracetamol for say fever, and after consuming paracetamol, if I'm having say nausea and vomiting, so this would qualify for an adverse event. So here we have the basic 4 required criteria. So I'm the patient who was taking paracetamol, then I'm also the reporter if I want to report it to the sponsor or maybe the manufacturer company that after consuming your product, I have had an incidence of say vomiting and nausea. So likewise, we have identifiable reporter, identifiable patient. We have a suspect product, that is paracetamol, and we have an adverse event, that is nausea and vomiting. So this is how the basic information regarding all these 4 criterias would be captured into the safety database. Then in terms of having it captured, particularly with respect to the adverse event information, there has to be some sort of harmonization or maybe synonymity while we are reporting it to various health authorities globally. And that is how the term needs to be coded. Like in while reporting any adverse event, any reporter might have any slang or maybe any layman language that can be used for reporting any of the adverse event. Somebody might say I have a fever, somebody might say that I'm feeling down, I'm pretty like more my body levels are pretty high, or maybe I'm feeling warm. So these are the ways the reports or maybe reporter might have an interpretation, or maybe just to report it. So this is the way the reporter might send the information to the manufacturer. And how do we harmonize it? Because if we are having multiple verbatims which are getting reported by the individual reporter, this would cause, or maybe while reporting it to the health authority, we need to have some sort of harmonization in terms of having a code provided to it, or maybe a uniform term that needs to be used. And this is how the medical coding would come into picture. And there are various tools, like we have a standard, that is Medra tool, that is being used for coding of adverse events and diseases. There are various levels that are there in within Medra dictionary. So this is basically a dictionary of adverse events and diseases, which will give you the standard codes for individual adverse event or disease that is getting reported. Once we do that, like once we have it documented into the safety database, we need to also have written a summary of all the events that are being reported. So we need to have a standard summary kind of an essay that we need to write within safety database, so that when we are generating any report, a standard adverse event report, it can be sent to the respective health authority. And likewise, we perform the health authority submissions within adverse event reporting. So this is with respect to the individual cases that are being handled. Now the next part is, how do we review it over the period of time in an aggregated fashion? So likewise, there comes in picture the report of, or maybe the importance of aggregate reporting. So what do we do in aggregate reporting? So there are various types of reports based on the health authority requirements, which are the standard formats or templates in which the health authority would accept any of the aggregate report, and there are various frequencies also to report these aggregate reports. So based on the authorization of any product, the health authority might request you to submit an aggregated report within first quarter, or every quarter within first 3 years, every 6 months within couple of years, or maybe on an annual basis. And likewise, we need to, or maybe whoever is the manufacturer or whoever is the sponsor, need to ensure that there is an appropriate measure to collect all this data in a collective way for the required time frame, so that this data can be analyzed in an aggregated fashion into the required templates. So basically, it might be in PADERs or PSURs, PBRERs, TSURs, and CARs, etc. So these are various types of reports which are accepted by the various health authorities. Like PADERs are accepted by US FDA. PSUR, PBRERs are more or less accepted globally by various health authorities. DSURs are at clinical trial level. CARs are for Health Canada. So there are various types of reports. And we need to have a collective assessment of all the adverse events to ensure that, or maybe to ensure that we have a trend of adverse events that are getting reported over the period of, say, a quarter, 6 months, or a year, or maybe couple of years or 3 years, based on the requirement of aggregate reporting. Then we further deep down or drill into the activity of aggregate reporting for signal detection purpose. So what do? We collectively analyze this data for any particular drug against the adverse events, and we try to identify any sort of trend, whether with particular or maybe with particular product or suspect drug, whether there were any adverse events, or do we have any correlation over the period of time based on the incidences that are being reported for any adverse event along with any drug. And likewise, we try to identify any signal. So what do you mean by a signal? So basically, based on the trend analysis that we do for various drugs versus adverse events, we try to find out whether there is any potential issue that is being noted through this aggregated information. Say for example, for paracetamol, we have hundreds of reports or adverse event reports for various adverse events that are getting reported, and we have this collected information for 100 odd reports, and we try to match the product versus the adverse event incidences. Say for example, out of these 100 adverse event reports, we have, say, 10 incidences of vomiting getting reported, say 12 incidences of, say, nausea getting reported, then 15 incidences of say headache getting reported. So likewise, we have a trend of various reports, and we further deep dive into it and try to analyze whether there are very common things that are being reported. Like, say for example, there are multiple incidences of headache after consuming a paracetamol, then this would be a potential signal for us, and we will try to further get additional details whether the patient had any sort of past history, or maybe was a patient on any other medication of which might have contributed to headache. So we try to correlate various things into while analyzing the signal, and likewise we validate the signal based on the available information with us. And ultimately, when the signal detection part is completed, we also try to analyze the benefit versus risk of any of the product, whether the marketed product is having the appropriate benefit versus risk ratio. So ideally, the benefit versus risk should be high, like the benefit should be higher than the risk, and this is how we analyze the risk management of it. So this is in a nutshell how do we uh, perform various activities within pharmacovigilance to ensure that the drug safety or patient safety is assessed and ensured by performing these various activities within PV. Any questions or any clarifications or any doubts so far? Hello? Can anyone confirm whether I'm audible or not? I'm not sure. There is no response yet. Should I move ahead? Okay, thank you. I just saw the messages. Thanks. Feel free to intervene for any doubts or clarifications that you might need. There might be several terms which might be new to you, and with the time constraint that we have, I may not be able to explain everything, but wherever there are any doubts, rather than typing it into the text box, I would prefer to have it over this call. Okay, let's move on to the next part, that is the qualification requirement. So we have seen like what do we do in PV, what are the scope or what are the opportunities or various functions within pharmacovigilance, but how do we enter into it, and what is the basic qualification requirement to enter into the pharmacovigilance? So whoever is science graduate, so basically as we are dealing with the scientific information, or maybe the information related to the patient safety, we need to have science graduate to at least have the basic understanding of terminologies or basic understanding of uh, biological or maybe pharmacological activities, and its correlation with the product. So likewise, the basic qualification would be like any science graduate, so be it bachelor in science or master in science in microbiology or biotechnology or any pharmaceutical science, and these are just basic criteria I have provided. It is not limited to these many qualifications. So whoever is science graduate, or maybe pharmacists, doctors, nurses, definitely can enter into the pharmacovigilance field. Earlier, when the field was not prominent enough, at least within India, so what we have seen is somewhere in 2004 2006, when it was gradually started picking up. So during that time, more or less, pharmacists basically, and that too masters in pharmacy, or maybe doctors, and that too in MBBS doctors and MDs were part of this profession. And it was considered to be a very niche requirement at that time. But over the period of time, we could realize that there is a lot of potential within pharmacovigilance, and we have the required qualifications within science graduates also. We have that maturity, we have that understanding. Within pharmacists, bachelors also have that understanding, plus alternate medicine doctors also, plus nurses also. So our curriculum is set that way that we at least have the basic pharmacology, or maybe the biology terms are getting covered over here. So these are the basic qualification requirements that can be looked at, or that are being looked at while hiring people within pharmacovigilance. So you can consider this to be an opportunity to enter into the PV based on your qualification. Apart from qualification, so what are the required skill sets? Basically, as I have mentioned with respect to the medical coding, so you should have the basic understanding of diseases, or various adverse events, and how it can be correlated to the drug. Medical coding is again a niche thing, I would say. Once you enter into the field, you will definitely be trained by the respective organization wherever you are. So you'll have a formal training about it, but you can read it on the various web portals and websites that are available regarding medical coding. So it is good to have this skill set. Then narrative and scientific writing. So what is narrative and scientific writing? So as I mentioned, during individual case safety report processing into the safety database, we need to have a summary of whatever is getting reported. So basically, you can term it as an essay in a chronological order. Whenever the patient is consuming any product, based on the chronology of dates, like whenever the first time the product was consumed versus when the adverse event happened. So this is the way we need to write an essay, that after, say, so the just to give an example, again the same example, patient had, say, was using paracetamol for fever and had headache. So how do you write it in terms of narrative? Just a brief narrative sample I can specify, like, say, the patient was male, and the patient started taking the drug on, say, 21st of May 2021, or maybe on 20th of May 2021, and had headache on 21st of May. So how do you write a narrative for this? So you can start with the information, basic information, that this report is pertaining to, say, 18-year-old male patient who was taking paracetamol for, say, fever, and had adverse event of, say, headache on 21st of May 2021. And there are various sections to the narrative or scientific writing. So in a nutshell, it is an essay in a chronological order, right from the start till the time of report. We need to have a medical essay that need to be written into narrative and scientific writing. Then there has to be a good understanding of medical terms also, as I mentioned. Considering we all are from, say, science background, we definitely have the basic understanding of medical terminologies of various diseases or adverse events. Then basic knowledge of regulatory affairs is good to have. Things like ICH BCP, or maybe ICH guidelines. You can Google it, you can search it. There are various health authorities, say India, USA, then Health Canada, Europe, then now recently MHRA also, with the Brexit scenario. You might have heard of Brexit. So Britain has exited from European Union. Now they also have a separate health authority requirement. So likewise, you can search for various regulatory requirements on these health authority websites. You can go through it. There are various guidelines based on the country specific requirement. And usually we have prominent guidelines from European Union. You can refer to GVP modules, that is good pharmacovigilance practices, and there are various modules to it. You can refer to that. Then US FDA also has the 21 CFR guidelines for this, so you can go through it. Then there has to be an attention to detail or eye for detail. It is very critical to capture each and every information which is getting reported as a part of your adverse event report. So this would help us in analyzing the exact cause of the adverse event and its correlation with the product. So an attention to detail or an eye for detail is very important. Then we need to have these records maintained very meticulously. We need to have it because these are audit worthy. These are regulatory documents, because each and every adverse event report which is getting documented by the respective manufacturing companies are getting reported to the relevant health authorities, and we need to have these records in place. And there are various good documentation practices that are being followed industry wide. There are document retention requirements also, and as a part of good documentation there are various factors that are considered, that your document should be legible, it has to be attributable, it has to be um, uh, recovered at any point in time. So likewise, there are various requirements from as a part of good documentation practice. Then in terms of uh, having analytical skills, so while referring to any adverse event report, you need to analyze that. You need to correlate various factors for, say, product versus the adverse event, and there has to be an excellent analytical skill that is required for the PV activity. Then effective communication. Communication is the key for having success, or maybe because we need to communicate with various stakeholders. So be it with patients or reporters, be it with your internal groups, or be it with regulators, we need to have an effective communication while handling adverse event data. There has to be a systematic approach, and there has to be a good interpretive skill. In terms of systematic approach, to have this systematic approach and to have the appropriate records in place, and that is how the role of various safety databases come in picture. And I did provide a couple of examples, like we have Argus, we have RSG. So these are well-known databases within industry that are being used by the various manufacturers and the various service providers to document any adverse event report. And these are validated, these are well accepted by the health authorities. So these are the basic required skill set if you are looking into entering for any sort of PV related functions. So you can focus on these required skill sets and develop the required competencies so that you have a bright career into the PV functions. Moving on to the next slide, that is, what are the career options that we have? So we have seen what is the educational background that is needed. We have also seen what are the maybe the soft skills, or maybe in terms of functional competencies that are required. But apart from that, so once we have that, what are the career options? At an entry level, you can get into individual case safety management report, and this is a very vast area, or maybe it has a very high demand for people, because nowadays, considering the industry scenario and considering the cost factors that are involved into these activities, more or less the pharmacovigilance activity is outsourced to India. You might have seen various BPOs and KPOs, or maybe CROs that are coming up in picture, and they are offering various pharmacovigilance related opportunities to people. So at an entry level, you can get an opportunity to work into the individual case safety report management, or as a medical coder, or into medical writing, or as a safety scientist. So these are entry level options that are there. And these terms, or maybe these roles and designations, may differ from various industry wide hierarchy. So at an entry level, you can get into a medical coding, or you can get into the individual case safety report processing activities, or at an aggregate report authoring activities. Then as a next level, as you get an exposure within industry, you have an experience of say 4 to 5 years or 5 to 7 years, then you will gradually grow within system at say leader level or managerial level. And once you are like pro into the industry, then the top management opportunities are also available within PV. Managing the entire portfolio of any company, or managing the entire PV function as a director, or maybe as an executive position. So these are the career options that are available at various levels based on your industry experience. At an entry level, there are chunk of opportunities that are available within the industry. The next thing is, who are the top recruiters? Then we have seen like what are the opportunities, but who are the recruiters? There are various pharma companies. These are either MNCs who might have global exposure or maybe global presence, or there are various biotech companies, there are various clinical research institutes, then there are various KPOs, BPOs, CROs. These are, what is a KPO or BPO? Maybe these are business process outsourcing organizations. You might have heard of say Tata Consultancy Services, or maybe Cognizant Technologies. So these are certain examples of these KPOs and BPOs who are dealing with pharmacovigilance services. IT firms, again, the Tata Consultancy Services would qualify in IT firm as well. So just to give you an example for IT firm, so you have Infosys as well, which is into PV activities. You have Wipro as well. There are various IT firms also who are having healthcare as one of their domain apart from IT thing, because the PV activities are more or less related to the safety database. There are various IT components involved to it, and there are various IT related things that are being handled within pharmacovigilance. So IT firms are more into the healthcare services as well, who are dealing with pharmacovigilance related activities. Then there are various regulatory agency opportunities also, like within India, say DCGI or CDSCO would have a role for PV officer or maybe a safety officer. So likewise, there are opportunities within the regulatory agencies also. Then within various medical colleges and hospitals, recently or nowadays we also have within our curriculum as a part of our educational system, the pharmacovigilance topic, or maybe a subject is also introduced within our curriculum also, just to have an overview of what is PV, what are the basics of PV, and what is the requirement. So this is how these are the recruiting opportunities or recruiters who are dealing with or have a requirement for freshers or entry level people to come up and join the pharmacovigilance forums or the teams or functions. So in summary, for PV related activities, it's a varied portfolio that we have seen, right from entry level to a top management level. It has a very varied portfolio. There are various excellent career opportunities that are there, and it is, if you have the basic requirement in terms of your qualification and very basic thing on the pharmacovigilance, you can definitely get an opportunity to enter into the field. And it is not just to be looked at as a career opportunity, but it is for a very noble cause, that we are serving we are serving patient safety indirectly, though we are not dealing with the patients directly as our physicians do, but ultimately we are ensuring patient safety through pharmacovigilance. And we are from the back end, or maybe while collecting this data, so this is how, or maybe this is the way it should be looked at. And the intention of performing PV activities is very noble. So this is a very noble cause we are serving for the patient safety. There are a lot of future prospects, and the ultimate thing is knowledge is the key, because it is very diverse. It is continuously developing area, and there are various health authorities that are coming up with this requirement. So nowadays globally it has a lot of weightage. It has a lot of rather requirement from the global things. So we are not even limited to the major countries within global requirement. So it is not even related to, or limited to, say, US or maybe UK or maybe Europe or maybe India or so. But there are various smaller countries also. So you say, like, say, in Africa region, so in say Latam region. So there are various countries also in APEC also. There are very small countries which are having their health authorities nowadays mandating various manufacturers to come up with the PV setup, and this is a mandatory requirement while authorizing any product into the market. So that is how the health authorities are very conscious of the fact that the patient safety and drug safety is of utmost importance, and we can't just authorize any product in the market unless the safety is ensured by the manufacturer. So this is the importance of pharmacovigilance, and there are a lot of opportunities within PV system, within PV domain. So if you learn basic things, you can easily enter into the field. So this is in a nutshell. I wanted to have an overview